What's up, everybody? Happy Friday to you. I'm Anthony Cosenza, joining you on this beautiful kickoff to the weekend. We had some real football last night, exciting game last night and ended up a positive result for the Cincinnati Bengals in some ways. So we got football back. We've got a big weekend ahead of football, including a divisional matchup between the Bengals and the Browns. And of course, we had the big news last night. Hopefully you joined us either live for that or after the fact about the Joe Burrow extension. 5 years, $275 million, just over $219 million of that guaranteed. He is the highest paid player in NFL history and in the league, obviously, right now as well. So a lot of news there, and there's more news to get to today. We're not going to dwell on the Joe Burrow contract for this episode because we talked about it at length last night. And so, look, there's a little bit of cold water that got poured on the on the Bengals side of things. And I want to clarify something yesterday that I said last night on the show. I said that Joe Burrow's guarantees, I may have said it at least, I was shooting off so much information, that Joe Burrow's guaranteed money is the highest of anybody. That is and isn't correct, because we still, I guess, I just don't fully recognize the realistic nature of Deshaun Watson's contract that he signed with the Browns, and of course, the guaranteed at signing was $230 million there, besting Joe Burrow. So I guess technically he has the highest amount of guarantee. So if I said that, I misspoke a bit, but I did mean to say that Burrow and his guaranteed money has beaten pretty much every other, aside from Watson, pretty much every other NFL quarterback that has signed a deal recently: Herbert, Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, etc. So I guess there was a little bit of a caveat. If I did misspeak there yesterday, I apologize, but that's something I wanted to address on the air here. But let's get to some news. There's a little bit of some cold water, as I mentioned, with some stuff that has come out on the wire today. As I usually do, I'm going to kind of screen share some articles, some other things, and we're going to talk a lot of Bengals. We're going to talk a little bit of Browns, Bengals. We're going to look around the AFC North, a brief look around the NFL. We're going to do two things different today as well. We're going to do a fun little thing courtesy of DraftKings, where I give just maybe some suggestions of a parlay, and you can take that and run with that this weekend if you are into the betting thing. And we are going to look back. I've mentioned this on the last few episodes, and maybe people are saying, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. Well, your boy here did a little research and did a little homework, and I've referenced the mid-2000s Bengals and some contracts and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna look at that in just a minute. But here is kind of the big news here, and I've already got random Chiefs fans tweeting at me from tweets put out in early April. I guess they want to grab receipts or, receipt check, whatever. But here is the big news. And that is that T. Higgins, his contract extension has obviously not been agreed to. And there are rumblings that the team and he are not close. This was broken earlier on Friday by Kelsey Conway of the Cincinnati Enquirer. I will pin this in the live chats and/or for those who watch after the fact and see, if you check the comments, the live comments, you'll be able to see the article, so you can go see what we're referencing here. But this is, it's an issue. It's an issue for this team. It's an issue for the long-term future, it's an issue for T. Higgins. I think they both sides want to get a deal done, but they just aren't close. And I think there's a lot of things to note here. They aren't close, maybe because, obviously the Burrow contract was a mega one. And so, they are really trying hard to make things work. They have Jamar Chase's contract in their sights. They did re-sign Jermaine Pratt, as I mentioned last night. They did re-sign Logan Wilson, or extend Logan Wilson rather, this summer. And then, of course, you had the big contract to Orlando Brown. Probably that was a player that they probably didn't initially, as they were formulating this idea and kind of, using facts and figures and everything for long-term planning with an extension to Burrow, an extension to Higgins, an extension to Chase. Maybe Brown, that wasn't really in their ideas of possibility going into free agency, and that one kind of fell into their lap, and that's affecting some things. But here is the report here from Kelsey Conway. She did expand on this. I don't know, saying Higgins isn't in their long-term plans. I don't know that I fully believe that. But basically, T. Higgins and the Bengals are not close, never got close on a contract extension unless something, quote, shocking happens in the next 24 hours. A long-term extension is not expected to happen before Sunday. I said this, I can't remember if it was last on the Burrow. We've done so many shows this week. I don't know if it was last night or the show prior, the Browns preview. But I kind of mentioned, I had someone relay some information to me from someone that, has ties to the organization and stuff. And that was some of the, this was some of the stuff that I had heard, that Higgins and the Bengals were not close, whereas Burrow and the Bengals were. Obviously, Burrow's deal got done, and this is now the reports that we are continuing to see pour out here. So this kind of corroborates a little bit of something I heard earlier this week. And so it's unfortunate news, but seeing it as how this hasn't been done, I don't think it's overly shocking. I think some people were optimistic with the Burrow deal done. Now it's like, okay, the dominoes falling, and maybe that's, I kind of preached a little bit of optimism last night, but there are a lot of things to consider in these contracts and a lot of different, moving parts and all kinds of different stuff that goes into these things. And, the Bengals, I don't know if they're in that, kind of number one-ish receiver money. Obviously maybe guaranteed money is still a sticking point, since they really ponied up the dough on that front for Joe Burrow and for Orlando Brown for that matter. So yeah, this is, it's not great news. I think if you are to kind of be, here's the kind of the best case scenario, you can see that Higgins is here for at least this year. And then, you would think that they would at least franchise tag him if they cannot get a deal done next year. And then, you continue to perhaps chisel away at Jamar Chase's deal as well. And then to follow up on this, Tyler Boyd kind of voiced a little bit of, I don't want to say displeasure or frustration. I guess it is frustration. It says it in the title here, but this is on Cincy Jungle as well. Tyler Boyd is frustrated that T. Higgins hasn't gotten a contract extension yet. And this came out, this was just a little bit ago as players were speaking to the media. I believe it was after practice on Friday. So Tyler Boyd frustrated that the Bengals and T. Higgins haven't gotten a deal done yet. And here is the quote. I think this is, Mike Petraglia relayed this one. Feels that he got, quote, the short end of the stick, did T. Higgins. But everybody has expressed, even though some people have said some things about T. Higgins and, man, they hope he gets a deal, et cetera, et cetera. They have all shown a great happiness or are happy for Joe Burrow and the contract he got. You saw a really cool quote from Jonah Williams as well earlier today. Tyler Boyd saying that T. Higgins kind of got the short end of the stick here, but we will see what exactly plays out here, right? Stranger things have happened with contract negotiations. We know kind of how, even though the Bengals tend to value wide receiver far more than safety, we know how this thing went with Jesse Bates. And of course, I think Higgins' agent is the same agent as Jesse Bates's. And so anyway, he meaning Higgins got the short end of the stick. He's worth a lot. They have to come up with some type of agreement. I hope they get something done over the next couple of weeks. T's a guy that's going to go out there and dominate each and every game. When his number's called, he always delivers. We got to get him rolling as well. Now, T. Higgins doesn't have necessarily the long speed that Jamar Chase has, doesn't have some of the crazy acrobatics that we've seen from Jamar Chase, but T. Higgins is a matchup nightmare and a perfect complement to Jamar Chase. He is big. He runs pretty dang well for his size. His catch radius is insane, and he has put up numbers with target share being spread around all throughout the offense. So he is a guy, I think Burrow really wants him back. I think this team wants him back. They've just got to make the numbers work, and they are not just working right now. And so maybe some other things occur, maybe some other, again, prompting the Joe Burrow extension and maybe trying to make this one work. That's where the Joe Mixon, quote unquote, restructure occurred, and some other things occurred with that. But, Boyd sticking up for his fellow receiver there, and obviously, not slamming the organization. It's just, the quarterback got taken care of, and so now they've got to do what they got to do to try and make this work. I'm gonna segue here for a minute, because the other stuff I'm gonna bring up here we talked a lot of Joe Burrow contract last night. It's not about that, and some of the other stuff, it's more kind of just news and notes with the Bengals and everything. I'm gonna pull this up here. This is a little, and you can see this little video that I will I'll grab for you. One sec here. And as I mentioned, the Cincinnati Bengals have been in this boat before. And in this boat check out I did some research. The mid 2000s, the Bengals, they had a star cast on their team. And in about a year and a half worth of time, they hammered out a ton of deals and big deals, making guys very well paid. Rudy Johnson, a new deal was in March of 2005. TJ Hushmanzada, new deal March 2005. Carson Palmer, new deal December 2005, making him one of the highest paid players at his position. Chad Johnson, new deal April 2006, again, making him one of the most highest paid players at his position. Bobby Williams, a valuable guard, a new deal after coming over in free agency in 04, new deal April of 2006. Willie Anderson had a new deal spring, summer. It was right before the season, 2006. Levi Jones, July 2006. So the Bengals, in a matter of a year and a half's worth of time, hammered out 7 deals, it looks like. 7 deals to their stars to keep that core intact. Now, granted, inflation is different. Money, contracts are way more exorbitant. Quarterback contracts are way more exorbitant, close to 20 years later than all of these were agreed to. But the point remains, this team has juggled a lot of hefty contracts, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, and have done so in short periods of time. Now, guaranteed money and all of that was different for these players as opposed to what Jamar Chase, T. Higgins might be looking for. But my point in bringing this up and actually showing you the bulk of these deals and when they were done, my point in bringing this up is because this narrative that the Bengals won't be able to afford all of their weapons, they won't be able to pay, they're too cheap, all of this kind of stuff. It's really not true. It's not true. Rudy Johnson, TJ Hushmanzada, Carson Palmer, Chad Johnson, Bobby Williams, Willie Anderson, Levi Jones, all deserving of their deals when they received them, by the way. They were paid very well in a short period of time. So the Bengals have been here and done that before. They have paid their players, paid them handsomely before, and have done so in a short period of time. Granted, we are looking back at a period of time that was close, between 15 and 20 years ago. But, so that this stigma of, man, even with this huge contract for Joe Burrow, the huge guaranteed money, different than the structures of those contracts. My point in bringing that up is trying to dispel this notion that they can't or won't pay multiple stars at the same time. They have done it. They have done it. Now it's a matter of getting the terms that both sides find agreeable. Maybe perhaps, I'm not at that negotiation table. I'm not, in the agent's office, that sort of thing. So I don't know exactly what is or isn't being conceded from the team or T. Higgins' side, but I mean, they've been there, they've done that. Maybe the Bengals are falling back a bit more into that lesser guaranteed money, big contract overall, like some of these guys receive, but maybe some lesser guaranteed money. And that's not what T. Higgins wants. Maybe the Bengals are relying on some other contracts that T. Higgins isn't seeing his value as congruent with some of those other contracts. And that's where the Bengals have the bar set based on his stats and everything. So he is a valuable piece to this team, T. Higgins, for sure. Valuable piece. There's no doubt about it. I tend to think I'm, I guess, sort of in a way optimistic, but also not ideal situation. I think he will be here for the next 2 years, this year and next, for the franchise tag. It's a matter of the team kind of stepping up and working on things and trying to get this a long-term deal. Maybe this ends up being a shorter term extension, not necessarily a 5-year deal or that sort of thing. Maybe this ends up being a 2 or 3 year deal where the Bengals make it a little more lucrative for T, and he can hit free agency again when he's still pretty young, and they still keep that championship window open. But at any rate, the Bengals, Evan asked a good question here on our Facebook. What is the Bengals cap outlook after this deal to get both Higgins and Chase done? I think we need to really properly answer that. I think we need to kind of get all the details of the Burrow contract and everything there. And then we can move, obviously where the salary cap's going to be next year and all that kind of stuff. Some things yet to be determined. So I can't really fully answer that question here. But I mean, I know going into this year, the Bengals were in decent cap space shape. They always seem to be in good, pretty good shape here, but they also did some things. They didn't re-sign Jesse Bates. They didn't re-sign Von Bell. They didn't re-sign Samaje Perine, and they restructured Joe Mixon's deal to make sure that, they make way for the big three on offense with their contracts coming up and a guy like Logan Wilson they wanted to extend. So now not only, do you have the T. Higgins situation, you also have DJ Reader, a very valuable guy, his contract coming up, some other tough decisions for the Bengals, making that. So at any rate, I didn't mean to segue totally from what we usually do on the headline show, but I did a little research, just quick research, snapshot stuff, on those contracts that the Bengals put together a slew. And there's probably more guys in there too that I could have added in there. But when you look at when the Bengals did those deals, who was sacrificed because of all of those contracts? Eric Steinbach, maybe some defensive players, and sticking them around. And also the other facet that is very different. There's a lot of similarities, and I think it's a sample size that you can look at and really say, hey, this team has been there and done that before. But also, this team right now is far more active, proactive, and spendy in free agents, outside free agency than they were then. So, again, some differences, but some similarities there. And I think there's at least something there to dispel the notion that the Bengals can't or won't extend a number of players at the same time. You can also use the mid-teens for in the 20 teens when the Bengals did AJ Green, Andy Dalton, Carlos Dunlap, Geno Atkins, Vontaze Burfict. I think Whitworth kind of had some different extensions in there as well. So I mean, they've done it. They've done it. Just got to make the numbers work. But yes, at any rate, the Bengals and T. Higgins. Seems like a couple of sources now are reporting that they are not close to a deal being struck, and this may bleed into the next coming days, weeks, and maybe even into next year with a potential franchise tag situation, etc. But let's move on. These are some pieces of news from a little bit earlier this week. We didn't really get to talk about them or address them. Should have asked Mark Bergen about one of these when we had him on earlier this week. Bengals named team captains for the 2023 season. This is not the story I'm referencing, by the way, that we should ask him about. That's going to be the next one. But in case you missed it, here are the team captains. Pretty obvious ones in a lot of respects. Burrow, DJ Reader, Sam Hubbard, who continues to be a locker room leader for this team, Ted Karras, who has really stepped up and ingrained himself to the city of Cincinnati and been a leader on that offensive line. Joe Mixon, a leader and a locker room guy that they are relying upon, and then Mike Hilton. And interesting here, really the only, you don't really have a wide receiver or a linebacker represented here, but you have your quarterback, you have a defensive lineman, two defensive linemen rather. You have an offensive lineman, you have a skill position guy in Mixon, and then you have someone in the secondary from Hilton. But really, really good choices, I think, overall for the Bengals captains. And you can find that in a number of different spots. Here are here's the link here. If I did not put that in the live chat, there you go. That'll be in there. So again, Burrow, Reader, Hubbard, Karras, Mixon, and Hilton are your team captains for 2023. Moving on here, this is the one I was talking about that we should have maybe asked a little bit of Mark Bergen's advice or insight on, and that is the Bengals adding a tight end to their practice squad, and that is Zach Gentry. Now, I've heard some pretty complimentary things from Steelers fans about him. He was, he had the big catch. I think you can see the picture here in the opener last year. So Zach Gentry joins the Bengals practice squad, a thin position group right now. So a good player to kind of have waiting in the wings there, familiar with the AFC North and what the Steelers like to do on offense. And so you can see here, he's huge, 6'8", 265. He was a fifth-round pick by playing at Michigan, played in 40 career games with the Steelers, 39 passes, 303 yards. And then he was known as a blocker, logging 603 run blocking snaps, 116 pass blocking snaps over 4 years in Pittsburgh. So a blocker with the ability to have an occasional catch. He is huge, 6'8", 265, good guy to have on the team for AFC familiarity and just kind of some depth at the position. So let's keep cruising on here and let's talk a little bit. This is, I don't know if we have, at least before we took the air here, I don't know that the Friday injury report was out here, but this is the Thursday injury report. Some interesting ones, and we talked about this a little bit with Tom Moore of Dogs by Nature yesterday on the Browns preview episode that we had. And here is the link here on Cincy Jungle for this one. Juan Thornhill, their big free agency get at safety, did not practice Thursday. Denzel Ward has been limited. I think based on what I've heard today, Denzel Ward is a go. He has been cleared from concussion protocol. But, big test for him this week going up against the Bengals receivers. Some other really good news for the Bengals. An update here. Joseph Osai had the ankle taped, and I believe he practiced on Friday. Really good sign after having a high ankle sprain and some people thinking he would miss maybe 2+ games. He suits up on Friday. We'll see what that means for Sunday, and got to get a full report on if he did indeed suit up fully in practice on Friday or did limited. But he, per Mike Petraglia, it looked like he was taping up that ankle and suited up for practice. So that is good news. Tyler Boyd, toe issue, full practice. Joe Burrow, the calf injury, he will play as if that really was in doubt. Deontay Smith, a shoulder injury, full practice there. Bitonio got, I think, a veteran rest day on Wednesday, full practice Thursday. Same thing with Amari Cooper, didn't practice Wednesday, full practice. Marquise Goodwin, backup wide receiver, has been a little sick, so he has been limited the past couple of days. Juan Thornhill limited with a calf on Wednesday and then went back the other way, did not practice Thursday. So not great news for him. We talked about the concussion, cleared from the protocol from Denzel Ward. Alex Wright, defensive end, limited. Conklin did not practice. It says not injury-related rest, so he's just getting veteran rest. He's been a guy who's been a little banged up, but an effective player when he plays. So Both teams relatively healthy. The Browns having some more things pop up than the Bengals at this point, but we'll have to see what happens with that secondary. Juan Thornhill and Denzel Ward on the injury report is an interesting set of circumstances for sure. Let's keep going on here and get a glimpse of some of the things going on around the AFC North, and we will start with the team the Bengals face this week. And I guess on the other side of the defensive backfield, Greg Newsome, a talented guy in his own right. An article on clevelandbrowns.com says that he is keeping receipts and he is prepared to face off against the Bengals wide receivers. This is by Kelsey Russo, staff writer over there. Quote, any way you can get an edge any single game just to elevate your game, even that 1% more, definitely always keep receipts. When it's all said and done, that's going to be one of the keys to this game is how well we do with run after the catch with their receivers. And that is a quote from Jim Schwartz, new defensive coordinator. Everybody wants to think it's all plays down the field, but 5-yard completions that they run for 25 can be just as damaging to a defense. So they are really in tune and really focusing on limiting the damage by the Bengals wide receivers, whether it's big plays down the field on long passes or yards after the catch plays. So we'll have to see what Jim Schwartz dials up for the Cleveland Browns against the Bengals. This is also maybe why I feel like, again, you may see some ancillary weapons get some touches, get some plays early in this one, as opposed to maybe the big guys putting up the gaudy numbers right away. You may see an Irv Smith or maybe a back out of the backfield or something like that, get some plays early on in the passing game, and then kind of spread things out, open things up a little bit more by using some of those ancillary weapons. We will see, though, obviously the Bengals want to and need to get the ball to their big 3 wide receivers. Let's keep rolling on. And this one is this is on Dogs by Nature, SB Nation's Browns site. I thought this was kind of interesting. This is a 3 things to watch in Bengals versus Browns. And by the way, you can go to Dogs by Nature to check out the 5 questions I had with Chris Picorni over there, head guy over at Dogs by Nature. You can go see the 5 questions he had for me and how I answered them. You can also catch some stuff from Tom Moore, who joined our program, but this is from Curtis Brown over at Dogs by Nature. The Browns quarterback trio versus the Bengals wide receiver trio. That is one thing to watch. How Deshaun Watson looks with a full offseason, of course, is another. And how the new look Cleveland Browns defense will look against one of the best offenses in the league. So go check out and read this one. Well done by Curtis Brown. I think, not that I expect anything different, but the people that I've been hearing, reading, speaking to about this game who have Browns ties, there are little, if any, picking against the Browns on that side of the fence in this game. They seem to be pretty confident. Now, they all seem to think it's going to be a pretty close game, but they seem to be pretty confident that they're going to take care of business on Sunday against the Bengals. So, I think the same could be said about those on the Bengals side of the fence as well. But that's some of the happenings and some things going with the Cleveland Browns. We're going to transition into some of the other AFC North teams and a little bit of fun things at the end of the show here. But I did want to just remind folks, I saw here in our comment section, it was deja vu. I wish there were more Bengal shows on Saturdays when people have time to watch and craving content. Well, we've done, let's see, I think 4 or 5 shows already, and we put up an additional 2 or 3 videos on the YouTube channel this week. So hopefully you can catch up on some of that stuff on our YouTube channel. If it's on a Saturday, even though we don't have a live show, we will have a live show Sunday for the post-game stuff. And then John and I will break things down further on Monday, another show on Thursday, and then Friday as well. But there's also all kinds of different shows on the audio side of things on the Cincy Jungle podcast channel. Bengal Jim and Friends had Elizabeth Blackburn and T. Higgins' mother, Mama T, on their show Tuesday night. So you got to go check that out. Really cool episode. As I mentioned, we've done a bunch of episodes. We previewed the Steelers and talked about the Browns on Wednesday night. Previewed the Steelers courtesy of Mark Bergen of Believe in Steelers. We previewed the Browns game in depth yesterday with Tom Moore of SB Nation's Dogs by Nature. We also had a shorter episode on the Joe Burrow extension. And of course, I'm joining you here today with some more news, more stuff. So while we don't have a live show set for tomorrow, hopefully you can kind of catch up on some of the stuff we've been throwing out there on YouTube, on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in live and checking out our stuff. Leave us a review, subscribe to our channels if you can and want to. We appreciate it, and we'll keep hammering you with content for sure. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers time. They have a tough game to start off the year, and I haven't been truly paying attention to like today's injury report for the Steelers, but Cam Hayward was on the Thursday injury report. Very, very important player for the Pittsburgh Steelers here. So he, but it says non-injury related resting player's stomach. He did not practice though on Thursday. So I don't know if he's got something else going on there that, an illness or if there is, I don't know. I don't know exactly what that is, but he did not practice. Larry Ogunjobi also limited this week with a foot issue. So they go up against the 49ers. Tough go for them. And this is on, by the way, this is on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, SB Nation's Pittsburgh Steelers site. So you can go check that out. So Cam Hayward on the injury report. Let's go to PittsburghSteelers.com, and this is an article by Mike Pursuta about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense and hoping that they carry over momentum from their insane preseason to the regular season. Pickett and Pickens were unbelievable in limited time this preseason, and their backup running back looked excellent. So at any rate, the Steelers went 3-0. First team offense scored 5 touchdowns on 5 possessions, and Pickett emerged with a perfect passer rating of 158.3. Quote, you would much rather be feeling like this than, oh, we coulda, shoulda. There's a good vibe with our guys, a confidence, the maturity of some of our players, year 1 to year 2, year 2 to year 3, whatever that is, we're in a great spot. Until we go out and play, we won't know. And this is all from Matt Canada, offensive coordinator, who kind of has come under some scrutiny since joining the team here. But they host the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday. Big game, interconference game, tough one for the Pittsburgh Steelers to start off with. But we'll see what happens. Nick Bosa just signed his big deal, so he is back with the 49ers. That's a big relief for them. And that is going to be I think so. So yeah, Deja Vu also said AFC North all 1 p.m. games sucks. Yeah, I personally, but that's the West Coast guy in me. I like the spread out, the 1 p.m.ers, 1:30 p.m.ers. I know some on the East Coast don't really like that, but I'm partial to it. I'm partial to it personally. So yeah, it's going to be hard to fully pay attention to what's going on with some of these games as the Bengals are also playing. But some confidence with the Steelers offense after some growing pains last year. Here is, let's see, what do we got here for? This is on the BaltimoreRavens.com website from Clifton Brown. And this is a boost of confidence. Everybody's confident, it seems, right now. Everybody's talking about being confident and keeping receipts and all kinds of different stuff. Zay Flowers, wide receiver, is calm and confident heading into week 1. And he was nervous prior to the Ravens' first preseason game. But, quote, we'll move down here, that for this quote, for this one, I'm just going to have to go out there and do my job. I've got other guys around me that have done this before. They make me feel a little more comfortable just going out and playing. So obviously a guy they are excited about, but we'll see what happens with this offense and if they can kind of recreate an explosive outside passing game going forward. And yeah, but Zay Flowers excited about week 1 here, and they have a huge game against the Houston Texans. And I think it's at home too. So that's not seemingly as challenging as what the Steelers have on deck for them. But there you go. Zay Flowers excited for week 1. Let's see. We've got a couple of others. A couple of others. Ravens did restructure Marlon Humphrey's contract to free up cap space. That was a couple of days ago. And then Jadeveon Clowney, who joined the Baltimore Ravens this offseason, is kind of taking some players under his wing, including Odafe Owe, saying that he is embracing a veteran leadership role, and Owe needs to do better than I did, was the quote. So you can see here, I think they're great players, Clowney said, of Ojabo and Owe. They come to work every day. They want to get better. They want to be great players. You could tell by how they practice and how they go about their business off the field. Since I've been around just watching them, I'll be like, hey, he reminds me of myself. So it's just great to watch him. That's why I'm always picking his brain, like, you should do this, you should try this, you should not try this, or something. So they've got a lot of able pass rushers and some big names on this defensive line, and they hope that that's going to bear fruit for them, obviously. But Clowney, even though he's up there in age, he was kind of a big get for them and a guy they're excited about. Now, if you listen to Tom Moore on our episode yesterday talking about Clowney with the Browns last year, one of the things that they did not like, because they like to move Myles Garrett around, one of the things that they were not overly enamored with Jadeveon Clowney was his kind of seemingly inability to move from one side to the other type of thing. At least that's what Tom Moore told us yesterday. And so that's why they went the Zadarius Smith route, and they now plan to continue to move Myles Garrett around the line, but we'll see exactly how well they execute that. Moving on to just a couple of NFL things, and then we will get on out of here. Most people know by now, but the Kansas City Chiefs upset by the Detroit Lions on opening night in Arrowhead. Good on Dan Campbell, good on the Detroit Lions. There are some similarities to the Bengals here. Dan Campbell struggled these first 2 years in Detroit. Detroit continued to believe in the process. They continued to believe in their head coach. Now, granted, they didn't get a number 1 overall pick in, a brand new quarterback, but they do have a former number 1 pick in Jared Goff. And he's been doing some nice things for them, but they went in there, they played physical, they played hard. Now, granted, there were a lot of self-inflicted mistakes by the Kansas City Chiefs in this one, but the Lions beat the Chiefs on Thursday night to kick off the season. I don't know that a lot of people saw that coming. Now, granted, no Travis Kelce, a lot of mistakes by the Kansas City Chiefs, a lot of drops and things like that. But you got to credit the Lions. They came out and played their tails off for sure. And so, you're starting to kind of see that patience paying off with the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, and what they're trying to do. So that's, good news really for everyone in the AFC. Good news for the Bengals, for the Chiefs starting off 0-1. And kudos to the Lions. Like I said, kudos to the Lions. That was a big win for them, especially on the road. Now, granted, also week 1's a little wacky. So we've talked about that too. Week 1's a little wacky, but you gotta give credit where credit's due there. They went in there and beat them. All right. Last one, and then we've got one more fun thing to get to before we hop out of here. What the hell is going on in Arizona? Man, the quarterback decision, it sounds like it's going to be Joshua Dobbs. This is a couple of days ago from Darren Urban of Arizona, azcardinals.com, their official site. But they are still undecided between Joshua Dobbs and Clayton Tune, maybe. But it sounds like Joshua Dobbs is getting the nod here. Not the best quarterback situation to be in for the Arizona Cardinals. There's also some weird conjecture floating around that they may decide to sit Kyler Murray the remainder of this year, kind of to not only tank, but if you listen to Michael Lombardi, former NFL executive, and a couple of others, there are people floating this conjecture out there that they are going to sit Kyler Murray for the year, not only as a potential to tank the year, but as a potential to be able, there's a much friendlier offloading process of Kyler Murray's contract that he signed recently that occurs next year as opposed to, this year, I think was kind of the situation. So it's really, really complicated and convoluted, but they're kind of a mess right now, and they are in transition. They do host the Bengals at the beginning of October, so you would hope that would be a seemingly win, a big win for the Bengals. We will see there, but at any rate, Joshua Dobbs appears to be the guy. Clayton, it's been like kept under wraps through this week here. So really, really odd stuff coming from Arizona. So one of the things I want to get to, before we get out of here, if you read Cincy Jungle, you know that we do a lot of stuff with our good friends over at DraftKings. And what we've done is we've put together kind of a fun parlay. I've put together some picks here. We'll be cooking up our own parlays from our good friends at DraftKings. We'll put right on their homepage for all of you. So you can go to DraftKings.com, go to the Bengals-Browns game, and be able to pick these for yourself, place specific bets. The parlay that I picked this week, Nick Chubb is the first touchdown scorer that's a plus 500. I had the point total under 47.5. That's minus 110. I have Joe Burrow throwing over 1.5 touchdowns, minus 150, and over 1.5 field goals for Evan McPherson at plus 114. So you can take this for what you will. When I look at this, Nick Chubb has been a Bengals killer. If you want some reasoning behind this, Nick Chubb has been a Bengals killer. Week one, I don't know exactly how much fireworks will be had between these two teams. I know Deshaun Watson talked about fireworks, but under 47.5 points, that's, right around 23-ish points per team. I think that's fair for week one, particularly with Joey Burrow missing some preseason time. Deshaun Watson still maybe getting his feet in this, a foothold in this system. And then, of course, Burrow throwing 2 touchdowns, that seems to be pretty doable, as is McPherson, who was perfect in the preseason, including hitting some bombs. So that's the little 4 parlay that I put together here. These are not locks. These are not guarantees. These are not promises, but these are things that I found kind of interesting, and you may want to think about going this route. Each week, DraftKings has new offers and great ways to make your Sunday more fun. So check these out. And if you're into the sports betting thing, go to DraftKings.com and do so. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problems gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly and play in and only in states wherein sports betting is allowed. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football. Terms for eligibility, terms and responsible gaming resources. Check it out. Go to DraftKings. And we've also got a survival pool that's going on CincyJungle.com as well. That's from DraftKings, so go check that out as well. Anyway, have some fun with that. Have some fun this weekend. Go catch up on all of our different episodes that we've done on this particular show and on our YouTube channel. We've had a lot of different stuff on here. Some big news this week with the Joe Burrow contract extension. Some not so great news with the report on T. Higgins and his contract extension with the Bengals. But here we are. Real football is here. Week 1 is upon us. A big divisional matchup for the Bengals against the Browns. Need to get that W. We'll be back to talk about it very soon on Sunday, and hopefully we are talking about that coveted W. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in live. Thank you for listening after the fact. I appreciate all of the support that you have shown this show, our podcast channel, and the various YouTube channels associated with CincyJungle.com. Have a great Friday, a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you soon.